Hi, it's me, Vicky Marie. How the devil are you? Okay, so it's already some people here. Thank you for being here. Hi, Bob. Hi, Chumba. Hi, Princess Tippy Toes. Yes, you're signed in. I signed in. Am I showing up? Yes, you're showing up. Hi, Joe H. Hi, Desi. Hi, Elizabeth from Scotland, from Escocia, as we say in Spain. Okay, so, right, I just want to start off by, obviously, this video, as you say, Princess Tippetoes, it would be nice to have something else to think about, but this case is probably one of the saddest cases that I've ever heard, so it won't give you a happy feeling. But I'm hoping something at the end I've got something at the end that will make us laugh, hopefully. But I've been wanting to talk about this case for a long time, but of course it's been all the inquest, and I was in Portugal, and that was all about Madeleine McCann, and then I came back and it was a build up to the inquest. This week's been the inquest, so I haven't had a chance. Hi, Jackie. Hi, Holes. I haven't had a chance to do this case, and I've been wanting to do it ever since, really. I ever sort of really got into doing the true crime this year. Hi, Desi. Oh, hi, Tina. Hi, Elizabeth. I hope I don't repeat. I think in the end I just repeat. I'm so worried that I forget to say hello to someone. I end up saying hello to people too many times. But I just wanted to say one thing about Nicola before I start, about Nikki. I have had, and I mean dozens of emails, not hundreds, but dozens of emails. And some of them are from locals from the area. And they all say the same thing. They're not happy with the inquest verdict. They're not happy with what's been said. People that help with the search for Nicola and saying that you can't just fall in. People with daughters who live in the area saying to me that they're not happy, and can we ask questions of the coroner, etc. Literally dozens of these emails and people sending me information. But what impresses me the most as well is the fact of these are people who live locally. Now, I know we have to think of Nikki's family, but we have to think also of anybody who lives in that area who's not happy with the inquest verdict. So basically, I will be doing more videos on Nicola, but only when there's something that comes up. But I will be as well emailing the coroner to just say I and other people. I mean, to me, I don't live there. I don't know the family, but there are people who live there. It's not only about the families. People who live there don't feel happy about it. So, it's not all the residents of the area that sort of hate YouTubers or whatever, because they're sending me emails and asking me if I can ask questions. Thank you for keeping up the the inquiries, etc. Thanks for not giving up on it. So I have to take all that. So like my dogs have started fighting. Do you see how they do that? As soon as I start live, they've just been there, sat there all quiet while I've been preparing, and now they've decided to have a fight. So I will be. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Nicola. Have I missed anybody? Let me just go. Hi, Charlie. You were watching Home and Away. You can't miss that. Oh, Elizabeth, send me an email about it, because I will look. I am going to start looking into. Now that the inquest is over, I'm not just going to be, bombarding Nicola videos. I want to do other cases, current cases. This particular case, you'll see why this is important to me. To me, this case should never be forgotten for many, many reasons. And it will always be relevant, always, even though it's quite an old case. but it's not a resolved case completely, but it is probably, as I say, one of the saddest cases that I've ever heard. And there's still, Susan Powell's family still don't have total closure on what happened to Susan, and may never have it, because everybody involved in this case is dead. But anyway, we'll get on to that. So thank you. Oh, is that Vicky? She's here. Hi. Did you hear the growling, Princess? Yeah. They've gone quiet now. Thing is, it's so hot, they don't want to play for long, because they play for sort of 10 minutes and then that's it. They're just like zonked out. Okay, so I'm going to do my housekeeping, because you know I always forget that, but I'm going to remember it tonight. Sometimes when it's when I've been doing a live about Nikki or whatever as well, it's not seemed appropriate or whatever. So first of all, I am going to show you my books. So remember, I teach Spanish as well. If you're interested in learning Spanish, if you already know all this, this is the time to chat between yourselves, or go and get a coffee or a tea or a wine or whatever floats your boat, because I'm just going to tell you now about my day job. So I'm going to show you, oh, what did I do then? I'm going to show you my books. What have I got on the present? Share screen, share screen. Gosh, I've got so many things up here at the moment. Okay, so the first book I want to show you, this is my Confessions of a Spanish Teacher book. Many of you have already bought this. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. This is the story of my life, in a way, of how I came to end up living in Spain, why I'm interested in true crime, especially sort of like stalking and things like that, and because this is what happened to me, this is my story, and this is tells of the experience I had with the coroner, an inquest, etc. It's just the story of my life, of how I get so far, if you like, or not so far, up to when I came to Spain, and a little bit more. But and it's available on Kindle, or it's available in book form, and it's available on any Amazon site. Vicky Marie Riley, Vicky with an I. And it's got very good reviews. I'm so happy about them. It's got a 5-star review, actually, so that's good. And any of you that have bought it and haven't written a review, well, hoping that you've enjoyed it. I mean, it doesn't matter. Writing a review is important. Hopefully, if you've bought it and you've enjoyed it, you'll give me a good review. But if you get the time and if you feel inclined. Okay, so that's one thing I want to show you. Then my Spanish books. Elizabeth, hi Maltese Cross, hi Elizabeth. Right, my email. Let me just put my email. Hi Mia. Hope I haven't forgotten anyone as usual. Because, but sometimes when I get talking and that. So it's VickyMarieChats@gmail.com. That's my email. Okay. Right, let me go now to my Spanish books, just to show you again, as I say, chat between yourselves. If you've heard all this before and you don't want to hear it again, chat between yourselves. Go and get your tea or coffee or whatever. Okay, so you should be able to see this now. These are my Spanish books. Is Break the Language Barrier levels 1, 2, 3. Don't know why it goes straight to 5 then. No, for some reason the 4 they miss out, but there is a 4. So if you're not sure which level you would be, if you're not an absolute beginner and you know a little bit of Spanish already, you can always email me and I'll let you know which one you should start with. These are 2 little, there is another one as well, 2 little storybooks. They're bilingual storybooks about the dogs. Surprise, surprise, suppressor. It's always about the dogs, isn't it, with me? But yeah, So that's the other thing. Let me turn that one off now. So turn that off. I've done that. Right. What's the other bit of... so the other bits of housekeeping that I have to do, if you want to join and become a member, you can... Oh, Desi, happy anniversary. Feliz aniversario. If you want to join my channel, you can become a member for €1.99 a month. It's cancelable at any time. There's quite a few extra things on there at the moment for members, and there will be more as that, because I decided that what I'm going to do with the Nicola Bully thing, especially anything that I think might be a bit sensitive, I'm going to put on. I mean, I will still be doing normal videos, but I will put some things on members only, just because, you know, people are funny about the Nicola Bully thing. People feel very proprietorial about it. So it's like, you know, they get quite, it's very polarizing, isn't it? It's like not quite often a case of what someone thinks and they'll allow someone else to think something else. It's like, I think this and you should think the same, you know, which I don't think anyone should think the same as me. I think everybody should have their own views. But then I've got my views as well. So, and they're backed up really by all the emails that I've received. That has really impressed me a lot. So, yeah. Right. Have I missed saying hello to anyone? I don't think I have. No. Okay. So I've done that. I've done the membership. So that's the memberships. The other thing you can do is you can buy me a coffee, a Ko-fi. There's a link for that somewhere on my channel. Hi, Tracy. And what's it? Oh, and there are like super chats and things like that. Super chat, super sticker, super thanks, which I have no idea how you do that, but people have managed to do it. So if it, you know, if they're one-off donations, if you like, or one-off help for my channel. But as I always say, the most important way you can support my channel is don't forget to like, pressing the like and subscribing if you've not already subscribed. You know, I'm really pleased with the amount of subscribers I've got at the moment. It seems to be going up regardless of the fact that the inquest is finished, etc., which is really good. So thank you so much, all of you, for that. And obviously joining in the chat, commenting. I hope you have a nice time in the chat and get on with each other. We don't entertain trolls. I don't like other channels being mentioned because I don't like to get dragged into YouTube drama. I'm not interested in that. I've got enough drama in my own life, or I certainly have had it. It's quite quiet at the moment, and I don't want all that drama. So that's it. That's what I wanted to say. So how many years? 20. Hi, Bad Fairy. Hi, Pauline. 22 years and 27 years together. Oh, that's really sweet. 22 years. I don't know how you've managed. It's like, I've never been able to get over 5 years, really. I don't know. Maybe it's me. I've come to the conclusion. Well, I say that. I do have I can only call him a friend. He's not really a partner. I do have a friend, which it has actually been 22 years nearly, but not like a marriage. Do you know what I mean? Just like an on-off relationship, but it has been over 20 years, which is a bit scary. Hi, David. But yeah, it's to actually be living with someone, and you know, that's lovely. You must get on well to be, you know, making relationships work is hard work, isn't it? It is hard work. Anyone who's been together a long time, I've got friends that have been together for years and years and years. It is not, what's the word? It's not all plain sailing, is it? You know, there's things that you have to get through sometimes. And I think that's brilliant that you've managed to last that long. Elizabeth, you've married your soulmate. You know, that's lovely. Yeah, yeah. There are, you know what? I like men. It's like I enjoy men's company. I, you know, I really do enjoy, but I don't know about actually living it. Maybe it's me. I don't know if it's me or them. I think, God, how do I explain it? I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit intolerant now. I mean, maybe I've just got to an age now where it'd be very difficult to compromise with someone. And relationships are about compromise, aren't they? Yeah. It'd be nice to have a soulmate. I had a soulmate. I mean, I talk about it, but you know, sometimes your first love works out, sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes you never get over that really. If it doesn't work out, you know, sometimes it's hard then to have a relationship with anyone else. Look, how have we ended up talking about this? Hi, Heather. Someone's sitting. David's the boss in his house and he's got his wife's permission to say so. Yeah, I think for me it's like, yeah, someone's sitting on your bit of the. Anyway, I can't get into this because then I won't get on with the story, because we should have a whole live on that, on relationships. Oh God, that'd be an interesting. That'd be an interesting. You sent me an email, Elizabeth. Well, I've had lots of it. I will have got it, I think, but I don't remember your name in particular. But are you the lady who lives in the area? See, I don't like to say about people on, you know, on live stream. If I've had your email, I will reply to it. I reply to every email. If I've not got round to replying to it yet, it'll be in the morning. Oh no, well, I haven't. I will look at the emails in the morning. I haven't had that email about Jodie Jones. I saw you mentioned it earlier in the chat, but I haven't had an email. But if you've only just sent it, I won't have seen it yet. But I'll see it in the morning, definitely. Sheila, hi Sheila. Oh my God, 30 years. Yeah, it's true. It's exactly right what you say. You know, whatever relationship you have, if there's been children in it, it's not a failure, is it? So, oh, you've just sent it. Oh, I'll see it tomorrow. I'll see it in the morning. I won't look at it now because I won't look at my emails now, but in the morning I will. Thank you. Yeah, I'm always interested to talk about new cases. So talking of which, let's get on to talking about Susan Powell. Now, as I say, it is good to talk about someone else. I mean, God bless Nicola. I'm not saying anything bad against Nicola, but this week it's been, you know, it's been, what's the word? It's been sort of emotional, hasn't it? And if that's the way it's been for us, imagine how it has been for a family. So it must have been, I just can't even imagine what it was like. So we're going to talk about a different case, but unfortunately it's still very sad. So, you know, it's not exactly a happy case, but there are lessons that we have to, exactly, a different case. We have to talk about a different case. And the relevance of this case to today as well is because if you've been following my channel and if you saw about Madeleine Kingsbury, who went missing, very similar case to Nikki, she went missing and she wasn't found for quite a long time. But having said that, there was a suspect right from day one with Madeleine, her ex-partner, who she was still living with. Still living in the house with, but she was due to move out. They had 2 children together. They dropped their children off at daycare that morning, and then she was never seen again alive. So right from the beginning, while she was missing, her partner Adam Fravel, he was under suspicion, but there was no evidence. And what happened was, he then started fighting for custody of the children, because Maddie's children went to her parents, and he started going to court and fighting for custody. And right away, I was thinking of that. You'll see as we go through this case of Susan Powell, I was worried that he might get custody of the children, because it was, it can be very unsafe for someone who is under suspicion for murder of the mother to get custody of the children, because you don't know what they might do. And so straight away, when I heard about that case, which is a current case, it's literally just happened, I thought about the Susan Powell case and what happened there. And I think the police thought about that as well, because they did block his application for custody of the children. And then what happened was they found Maddie's. Unfortunately, they found her body, but it was good as well, because it meant that the police arrested him instantly. Meant that the family didn't have to worry that he was going to get his hands on the children. But then he applied for visitation. Well, I say visitation. He's in prison. But what he's applying for is for the children to come and visit him in prison for parental rights. And he didn't get, so we've just found out, literally, I put a post on the community, we've found out that he's been denied. Thank God for that. So what's he doing? So he's applying for his children to come and visit him in prison, where he's been arrested for the murder of their mother. How could that even be considered? I just don't even understand how that could be considered in the first place. But anyway, he hasn't got it. It hasn't got it. So, that's fine. So this, and the reason that I was so concerned about that, and I'm always concerned when there's any suspicious circumstances and the father or mother, because, it's not beyond mothers to do terrible things to their children, unfortunately. It's less common, but it's not unheard of. It's always a worry, isn't it? When someone who's been suspected of doing ends up with custody of their children, because the courts are quite often, their hands are tied, because obviously the natural parent always gets the first sort of dibs, if you like. So you've got like the grandparents, Maddie's parents can breathe a sigh of relief now that they don't have to take their grandchildren to see the murderer of their daughter, who is also the children's father, in prison. So it has had a favourable outcome, thank goodness. So let's talk about Susan Powell. Susan Powell we don't know for sure she's dead. We can presume that she's dead, because she disappeared, I think it was 2009. Yeah. Susan Powell was born Susan Cox in West Valley. She went missing from West Valley, Utah, but she was born in New Mexico. Anyway, when was she born? She was born on October the 16th, 1981. So if she is still alive today, which seems quite unlikely, she will be 42. In 2009, on the morning of December the 6th, 2009, Susan attended church with her two children, Charles and Braden. She was married to a guy called Josh Powell. And that family, the Powell family, oh my God, this poor woman, when she got involved with that family, she didn't know what she was getting involved with. Her husband, Josh, who is also similar age, let me show you the photos. If you look at the photos of this family, it's one of those where you would look, it just shows you just can't tell with photos, can you? the photos when we see social media and it's the smiles and it's the family photos. Well, let's have a look at these and you'll see it just looks like a normal family, whatever that is. I've come to realise there is no such thing. Right, let me find, where am I going on here? Disappearance of Susan Powell case. Yeah, now you should be able to see these photos now. Yep, okay. So I can go on it then and show you. So, you know, so this is Susan, Josh, the two children. Josh and the two children. Look at all the smiles. His lovely children, the lovely boys. He looks really happy. Oh, is that a video? Let's see if we can see that video. Oh no, it's not a video of them. It's the video of the news report. There's her with her. That must have been when she had the youngest son with the baby, and Josh and the oldest son, and they all look so happy. This is a lovely picture. Susan and the two boys. All these lovely family pictures. Now, oh, that's when she got married to Josh, this one. So you can see that, can't you? Yeah. All these, you know, always amazing. Gosh, they look so young there, don't they? I mean, he looks so young. She got involved with this family. She didn't have a clue what she was getting involved with. It's such a weird family, the Powell family. Look at this. So here we've got Josh, one of the boys who was obviously very, I don't know which one it was, obviously very young before maybe the other boy was born. We've got Susan. We've got Josh's father. He's the one to watch out for. He's the one. Stephen Powell, this father here. What a horrible man. And this is his brother, Michael Powell. And he is connected in this whole case as well. None of those people in that photo, except maybe Susan, but it's not likely. She's the only one whose body hasn't been found, let's say. None of the people in that photo are alive now. That is what they're all gone. Gone. And so Susan's family is unlikely to get answers, isn't, you know, because let's have a look at that. Look at that. It just looks like a normal, happy family. Here's Stephen Powell, the father. To me, he's the one who's like caused it all. I mean, Josh is horrible what he did, which we'll come to, but he's the one, he's the root of it all. Josh's father, Stephen, he is the root of everything that went wrong in this family. So let's start talking about what happened. So Josh, he had a girlfriend for a while and then they split up and then he met Susan and they got together. That's right. His father was obsessed with her, Sarah, absolutely obsessed with her. So anyway, Josh married Susan. What's the next bit that I want to show you? Yeah. Josh married Susan and they went to live at Stephen's house. And this is when Stephen, Josh's father, became totally obsessed with Susan. So he would take videos of her without her knowing. And he kept a video diary of his own where he would talk into the camera about how, you know, how Susan, you know, he was in love with Susan and quite sort of really, well, very creepy type home video. So he would sit there with a webcam, you know, videoing himself, doing all sorts of things, talking about Susan. And eventually he did tell Susan how he felt. And she was really uncomfortable. And she said to Josh, look, we've got to move out. We've got to get our own place. We can't stay here. Now, going back to Josh's childhood, Stephen was inappropriate with Josh and his brothers. Whether he abused them or not, I don't know. But what I do know is he shared pornography with them from a very young age. You know, he would encourage. I mean, he was one of these Church of the Latter-day Saints people, but he got to a point where he didn't want to be in the church anymore. And that's when he and Josh's mum split up, because he turned around to her and said, I don't know that I believe in God. And Josh's mum was very much in the church, like believed in the church, etc. So that's when Stephen and Josh's mum split up. But he did have a very difficult childhood because of Stephen, but it doesn't excuse what he ended up doing. But apparently Stephen did abuse the whole family. And then he, you know, sharing pornography with Joshua and his two brothers. They never really talk about his other brother. He's probably mortified. But also allegedly, again, this is what they say, that Joshua did kill gerbils belonging to his sisters when he was young. And he did threaten his mother with a butcher knife. And he attempted self-deletion on at least one occasion. So he obviously was a troubled boy. And I'm not surprised he was a troubled boy, really, with the father, who's just sort of a weirdo, an absolute weirdo. Anyway, so he started a relationship with a woman called Catherine Everett, but she said that he was very possessive, etc. So in the end, she broke up the relationship. And that's when he met Susan. Poor Susan. I just think, oh my God, you know, she just didn't know what she was getting herself into. When she first, you know, because he was quite a good looking young lad. Apparently he was charming, he was nice, he was attentive, you know, in the beginning, like they all are. And they ended up getting married, and that was the worst thing that she could ever do, I think. But anyway, for a brief period following their wedding, they lived at Stephen Powell's house in Washington. And that's when this obsession of Stephen with Susan started. And he would follow her around the house with a camcorder. He'd use mirrors to spy on her when she was in the bathroom, stole her underwear from the laundry. He posted love songs online, etc. And then finally, in 2003, he did confess his feelings to Susan, and she was totally stunned, because to her, he was just her father-in-law. You know, she had no sort of romantic feelings towards him whatsoever. So they then, the Powells, Joshua and Susan, moved out of state. Then, as time went on, there was some marital discord between Susan and Joshua. She did, you know, keep a journal, and so the police could sort of prove that there had been problems. Joshua refused to attend church services. Susan was a very committed member of the church, and also there was this problem about the father's ongoing sexual advances towards Susan. Susan's friends said that Joshua was controlling. You know, these are just, you know, just the typical coercive control that you find in these sort of relationships somewhere. And she made a video where she said, if I die, it may not be an accident, even if it looks like one. So she had a feeling that she wasn't safe. Anyway, in the meantime, they had two boys, Charles and Brandon. And on the morning of December the 6th, Susan, Charles and, Braden, they attended the church service. Joshua didn't go. A neighbour visited them at home in the afternoon and left about 5 p.m. and that was the last time that Susan was ever seen by anyone outside the Powell household. And in fact, so that was December the 6th. So on December the 7th, the whole family was reported missing because they'd all disappeared. And Joshua's mother and his sister went to the police station in the end because they didn't know where they were, and they weren't answering. The children hadn't been dropped off at daycare. They weren't answering the telephone, etc. And in the end, the police broke into the house, worried that the family, the whole family might be dead in the house because everybody had disappeared. They didn't find anyone inside, but they found two fans. There were two fans switched on, blowing a wet spot on the couch. Susan didn't show up at her job. Her purse and everything was found at the, purse. I think that's her bag, because in America, the purse is your actual bag, isn't it? Whereas in Britain, your purse is just what you keep your money in. But anyway, that was all found in the house. The telephone was found in the car that Joshua had been using. Anyway, later that day, Joshua came home about 5 o'clock with the two boys and was instantly taken to the police station for questioning. He said he'd left Susan sleeping at home shortly after midnight and gone camping with the boys. Decided to take the boys on a spontaneous camping trip. Yeah, well, that's the sort of thing you do in December, isn't it? But anyway, so he said he'd gone on a camping trip to Simpson Springs in western Utah. Anyway, when the police visited the site, they didn't find any evidence of the campsite that he'd described. And it was blizzard conditions that night. So obviously that was suspicious, that we'd take his two young boys out camping in blizzard conditions, when they were supposed to be going to daycare the next day. So very strange, very strange. Anyway, as the investigation progressed, they did find traces of Susan's blood on the floor. There were a lot of life insurance policies, and there was a handwritten letter by Susan expressing fear of her life. However, there was no evidence of any foul play. Well, there was the blood, not enough to go to court. I think in America, anyone who's on here from America, they'll confirm for me. I think when you're in America, well, it's the same in Britain, isn't it? You have to present a case to the Crown Prosecution Service or to the, you can't just, and you've got to make sure you've got enough evidence that the Crown Prosecution Service will say, okay, you've got enough to form the basis of a case, because otherwise they'll get tried for it, they'll get found not guilty, and then you can't try them again. So you've got to make sure you've got all your ducks lined up in a row. Anyway, he took quite a lot of suspicious. He was suspicious everything he did. Joshua, I think he was under suspicion right from the beginning. But again, it's a bit like with the Maddie Kingsbury case. Her ex-partner was immediately suspected, but they had no body in that case as well. So, until the police did so well in finding Maddie Kingsbury's body. So it's a massive area that they had to search, a bit like this really. But apparently Joshua had mentioned to co-workers before that he thought it'd be really easy to hide a body in the western Utah desert, because there were lots of abandoned mine shafts. So he had actually made that comment. So that's where generally I think people think Susan is somewhere in one of those mine shafts, but it's virtually impossible to find. They interviewed the children. The oldest son is Charlie. He confirmed that they went camping. He said that Susan went with them. She was in the trunk. He said Mummy was in the trunk. And he, later on, one of his teachers claimed that he had said to her that his mum was dead. Trouble is, you're interviewing children, it's very difficult, isn't it, to get the actual evidence. But anyway, he said that mummy was in the trunk. Braden, the younger one, it was him who drew a picture of the van with 3 people in it and told people that mummy was in the trunk. Anyway, so as time went on, so when was this? So she'd gone missing in 2009. Right, just let me come back to the chat and make sure that you're all okay. You're all okay? No, we've got no trolls. Hi, old bod. Oh, you know this case. We've got no trolls, have we, or anything like that? No, you get the trolls in the Nicola Bully things for some unknown reason. That's where you always get them. Okay. So going back now to the story. So through all this time, Joshua was under suspicion. And they were bringing him in, interviewing him. There were all sorts of things going on. And Joshua was becoming more and more. I'll look for some photos later. To me, when I looked at the videos of him, I just thought, oh my God, that man is having a nerve. He looked like he'd been to hell and back. His eyes. I'm always banging on about eyes, but eyes are the windows to the soul. His eyes, he was like he should never have been trusted with those children at all. But anyway, so he moved back. He moved to Puyallup, which I don't know where that is, but he moved in with his father, Stephen, with this creepy Stephen. Let me see if I can. Right, let's have a look at the world of inside the mind of Stephen Powell. We're going to look now. Give you a little idea of what Stephen was like. Let's find it. Stephen Powell. Yeah. Now, I don't know if I think you can see that. This is Joshua's face. Look at his face. You see in his eyes. The difference, something terrible has happened, you can see. But anyway, we're going to have a look at Stephen.
Dozens of disturbing videotapes.
Somewhere.
Let's go back to
Verd, the newest member. Verde. I'm sorry.
So this is Susan, and these are video. This is a video that Stephen took of Susan.
No, we're not idiots. We don't butcher the Spanish language.
You don't. This is the newest member of Susan and Josh's family.
This is our baby.
PSL's new investigative podcast series, Cold, enters its 2nd week with more bombshell revelations, this time dealing not with Josh.
I was looking for that full video when he was sat on the bed there. Oh my God, that's the creepiest. I couldn't find the full video, but he's on the bed getting undressed and talking into the camera about this fantastic erotic experience he's had with Susan, because I think he was rubbing some cream on her feet or something. Oh God, it just makes you want to vomit. He's the most horrible, creepy man.
2nd week with more bombshell revelations, this time dealing not with Josh Powell, but instead his father, Stephen. Front and center, boxes of evidence seized from his Washington home. In them, dozens of disturbing videotapes.
Some were used in his voyeurism trial in Washington, but most of them sat in storage at West Valley Police Headquarters for nearly a decade.
Yeah, David, the only people...
Right, let me just fast forward it while they're talking, because are they going to actually... Right.
Camcorder in his hand, videotaping important events, weddings, graduations.
Hey Josh, wait, there you go.
But look closer at these moments captured on camera, and you'll see a startling pattern. Regardless of the occasion, Steve Powell focused his lens on one thing.
Hold your hand up, please.
Susan.
Great.
Yeah, so all the time that he was taking supposedly family videos, etc., he was actually always concentrating on Susan. His main attention was always Susan. He was obsessed with her.
We will no longer look at your fingers. We will look at you. So,
That's Susan. There's Josh. They wanted her.
To not further victimize Susan, we won't show you most of Steve's videos. The majority detail Steve's fantasies about Susan, which are sexually explicit. But to understand the family turmoil she endured, you need to see how Steve fixated on her from the very early days of her marriage.
We're too close.
Steve's own journals reveal his infatuation became perversion and persisted through the years.
Yeah, so he started off with this sort of bit of she's a very beautiful woman, but then it turned into an obsession where it's all these videos that they took from his house. They were all about Susan. It was all about Susan.
she was very open in a sexual way.
And he was vocal about it after she disappeared.
Yeah, and the most disgusting thing is, after she disappeared, he was saying what an open sexual person she was and how she'd probably run off with somebody else and blah, de, blah, de, blah. You know, oh, God. So,
Claiming Susan was a willing participant.
It was definitely a romantic obsession, yeah. I mean, Susan's a beautiful woman, and when a beautiful woman comes on to you like that, it's really hard to resist that kind of a thing. I mean, maybe it's just me, probably inappropriate, but I admit those things were going on.
But no one.
Yeah, so he's saying she came on to him. This is after she's disappeared. I mean, what disrespect.
Knew the depth of his obsession until investigators stepped foot in his bedroom.
It was a house of horrors when we went through there.
Police were there to retrieve Susan's childhood journals. Journals Steve spent years swiping and scanning. And journals Josh and Steve had intended to publish.
Yeah, so he was in her journals. He was photographing them. He was just while they were living at his house, he was in everything of hers. Obsession, total obsession.
It's the search warrant that got us into the house.
Filing cabinet in Steve Powell's closet, police found evidence that his self-proclaimed relationship with Susan was one-sided. He stalked her, videotaping her from inside his car. He stole her personal items, her underwear, nail clippings, hygiene products, and he doctored photos of her and used his camera to build his collection.
20 to 25 detectives there, and we all went, wow. We were like, that's crazy.
So that's how they realized about him. Let's see, go to this. This would be.
And I know she felt it. I mean, I know she couldn't have missed it. She's not naive either.
That Susan loved him back.
And I know she felt it. I mean, I know she couldn't have missed it. She's not naive either. I know from what I've read in her journals. But if she didn't notice that, she did. She had to.
Sometimes Susan knew she was being filmed. Other times she had no idea. We found one
tape. I think you get the idea. He's a creepy guy. Really, really, I know, disgusting, isn't it? I mean, really, really horrible. A horrible man. But this is Joshua's father. This is Josh's father who exposed him and his brothers to pornography, from a very young age. So unfortunately, they didn't stand much of a chance. Hi, Rachel. Okay, so going back now so Susan's gone missing. Susan's disappeared on the morning of December the 6th in 2009. And Joshua has said he took the boys that night at midnight in blizzard conditions to go camping. And when he came back, Susan had just disappeared. This is what he's saying. So they found blood on the sofa in the house. But of course, that in itself is not proof because she might have cut us. I mean, it's the house where she lived. She might have cut herself anything. So there was no proof that anybody had done anything to Susan, but she just disappeared completely. So as time went on, Josh is under suspicion for the disappearance of his wife, disappearance of Susan, but there's no proof. And then there was a website launched defending Joshua, and saying that he was the victim of a smear campaign by Susan's family. I mean, how have they got the brass neck? I don't know, to do these kind of things. Oh, and then they said, because there was a guy called Stephen Kircher who vanished the same week that Susan vanished. So they said that they'd ran off together, but they were completely, it was nothing. He's another disappeared person that's never been found, but there was no evidence that she'd gone off with him. But what they were doing was just trying to create that narrative that she'd run off with this other guy, that they'd run off to Brazil together. But it's Joshua and Stephen, Joshua and his dad, that they think wrote these posts and set up this website, etc. And both, now, does this sound familiar? And I think why this resonates with me in the case that we all know about is both those men claimed that she had abandoned her family due to mental illness. They said she had mental illness. You know, it's so easy to say that about somebody, isn't it, when they're not here any longer to defend themselves. And they said that she had a mental illness, she'd abandoned her children and ran off with another man. And of course, Susan's family rejected those claims as being unsupported by any evidence. So that's when they started to, so it was as they were looking into Susan's disappearance, the police, that they found out all these things about Stephen, the father-in-law. So it's when they went into the house to sort of find out about her disappearance that they found all these disgusting videos of Stephen talking about Susan and how he was totally obsessed with her. They found 4,500 images of Susan taken without her consent, including close-ups of specific body parts. Then the brother, Michael, they turned their attention to him as well, because he sold his car to a wrecking yard in Oregon shortly after Susan disappeared. So he got rid of his car. And when police found the car, a sniffer dog targeted human remains had been in the trunk. But DNA tests on the car proved inconclusive. So now we've got Joshua under suspicion, his brother Michael, and his father Stephen, all under suspicion for the disappearance of Susan, but no real evidence that they could get their teeth into. Anyway, many times they found a place where they thought, you know, there was like a possibility that but it all came to nothing. When they went looking at these mountains and desert areas, in mines and things, nothing. Things have been found, but Susan's body has never been found to this day. So technically, she's still a missing person. She has still not been declared. Even though she disappeared in 2009, she still hasn't been declared dead yet. She's a missing person still. Anyway, obviously then, the relationship between the two families, Susan's family and the Cox family, Susan's family, which is the Cox family, and the Powell family, the relationships became very acrimonious as time went on, because the Cox family, Susan's family, was convinced, well, it just seems obvious, doesn't it, that the Powells had something to do with her disappearance. But again, where's the evidence? Stephen started talking to the press, the father-in-law started talking to the press and saying, you know, like you saw on that video, that it was a mutual thing between him and Susan. She was a very sexual person, and, you know, all these horrible things that he was saying about her. Anyway, finally, a judge issued an injunction forbidding them to publish any more material from Susan's journals. Because remember, Stephen had found Susan's journals. He'd scanned them. He had them all on his computer, and he was releasing all this information, her personal information. Anyway, a judge finally issued a ban, an injunction, saying they couldn't do that anymore. And finally, on the 22nd of September in 2011, Stephen was arrested on charge. This is the father-in-law. He was arrested on charges of voyeurism and child pornography. Police found evidence that he'd secretly videotaped numerous women and young girls, not only Susan. So he was like, you know, he was a right one, basically. Anyway, apparently a friend of his claimed that he was obsessed with pornography. He was hung up on Susan. So Chuck Cox, who is the father of Susan, filed for the custody of the two boys the day after Stephen was arrested. So finally, a Washington court did give Susan's father temporary custody of the two boys, Charlie and Braden. And he said that he said to Joshua, if he wanted to regain custody, he would have to move out of Stephen's home, out of his father's home. So Joshua rented a house, but it's alleged that he never actually lived there. He just rented it so that he had a separate address that he could give to the courts, just making it appear as if he had satisfied the court's instructions. In late September 2011, his own sister Jennifer, Joshua's own sister Jennifer, stated that she believed that Joshua was responsible for the disappearance of Susan. And also his other sister had been suspicious of him. So the tide was turning, the suspicion was really mounting, even though there was no evidence. Even his own family now were turning against him. In January 2012, Utah police discovered about 400 images of simulated child pornography, all sorts of horrible things that I won't go into, from the Powell family home. So although the actual images, they weren't illegal because they were in cartoon format, I don't know if that's changed. I mean, what? So they weren't real children, but they were cartoons of children being abused. So it was difficult there. I mean, whether that's changed now, that law, there was no law against it really, but they were obviously then said that he needed a very thorough evaluation, psychological evaluation, Joshua did. And they gave him a polygraph test, etc., which it doesn't actually say here whether he actually passed that polygraph test or not. Anyway, the suspicions were growing against Joshua. He was like a haunted man. As I say, his eyes, he just looked like he'd been to hell and back. How he was ever allowed those children, I just don't know. I honestly don't know. Well, he wasn't allowed to have the children unsupervised. He was granted supervised visits where a social worker always had to be there at all times when he had these visitations with the children. She would take the children round to his house, and she would have to be there throughout the visit. On February the 5th, right, I just want to check you're all right before I start this. So I know. Oh, well, unfortunately, it doesn't get any better. In fact, it gets worse. But what we're going to listen to now is what happened. Let me find the date. What happened? What was the actual date? There it happened. Yeah. On February the 5th in 2012, social worker Elizabeth Griffin Hall took the children for their visitation rights to Joshua's house. As she got there, He opened the door, Joshua opened the door, the children ran in, and he shut the door in the social worker's face. Literally slammed the door in her face. And she heard him say to the boys, "I've got a surprise for you." Now we're going to listen to the 911 call, because she then immediately phoned the police. And this is the most irritating. Sometimes when you listen to these 911 calls or 999 calls, you just think, for God's sake, what's wrong with these people? So let's have a little listen to this. I just warn you, it is a bit upsetting. You just want to, honest to God, this 911 operator, you just want to bloody kill him, basically, because it's awful. Anyway, so this was the call.
Reporting. Hey, I'm on a supervised visitation for a court-ordered visit, and something really weird has happened. The kids went into the house, and the parent, the biological parent, whose name is Josh Powell, will not let me in the door. What should I do? What's the address? It's 8119, and I think it's 89th. I don't know what the address is. Okay, that's pretty important for me to know. Sorry, I can't. Just a minute. Let me get in my car and see if I can find it. Nothing like this has ever happened before at these visitations, so I'm really shocked. And I could hear one of the kids crying, but he still wouldn't let me in. Okay, it is just a minute. I have it here. You can't find me by GPS? No. Okay, it is, I still can't find it. But I think I need help right away. He's on a very short lease with DSHS, and CPS has been involved. And this is the craziest thing. He looked right at me and closed the door. Are you there? Yes, ma'am. I'm just waiting to know where you are. Okay. It's 8119 189th Street, Court East, Puyallup, 98375. And I'd like to pull out of the driveway because I smell gasoline and he won't let me in. You want to pull out of the driveway because you smell gasoline, but he won't let you... He won't let me in. He won't let you out of the driveway? He won't let me in the house. Whose house is it? He's got the kids in the house and he won't let me in. It's a supervised visit. I understand. Whose house is it? Josh Powell. Okay, so you don't live there, right? No, I don't. No, I'm contracted to the state to provide supervised visitation. I see. Okay. And who is there to exercise their visitation? I am. And the visit is with Josh Powell. And who supervises? And he is the husband that I supervise. So you supervise and you're doing the visit? Yeah, I supervise yourself? I supervise myself. I'm the supervisor here. Wait a minute. If it's a supervised visit, you can't supervise yourself. If you're the visitor... I do supervise myself. I'm the supervisor for the supervised visit. Okay, well, aren't you the one making the visit? Or is there another parent that you're supervising? No. I'm the one that supervises. I pick up the kids at their grandparents. Yes. And then who visits with the children? Josh Powell. Okay, so you're supposed to be there to supervise Josh Powell's visit with the children. Yes, that's correct. And And he's the husband of missing Susan Powell. This is a high-profile case. How did he gain access to the children before you got there? I was one step in back of them. Okay, so they went into the house and then he locked you out. Yeah, he shut the door right in my face. All right. Now, your last name? My name is Elizabeth Griffin Hall. Griffin Hall is hyphenated? Yes. And what's your phone number, Elizabeth? This cell phone number is 360-990-9955. And what agency are you with? Foster Care Resource Network. And the kids have been in there by now approximately 10 minutes. And he knows this is a supervised visit. 2. Braden is 5 and Charlie is 7.
And the dad's last name?
Powell, P-O-W-E-L. L.
2 L's? 2 L's at the end of Powell?
Yes.
His first name?
His first name is Josh.
Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, native?
He's white.
Date of birth?
I don't know. He's about 39.
How tall?
5'10", 150 pounds.
Hair color?
Brown.
Did you notice what he was wearing?
No, I didn't notice what he was wearing.
Is he alone then, or is anybody
I don't know. I couldn't get in the house.
Are you in a vehicle now or on foot?
I'm in a vehicle. I'm in a Prius, a 2010 Prius.
What color
with
is
the doors locked. But he hasn't opened the door. I rang the doorbell and everything.
What color
I
is it?
begged him to let me in.
Elizabeth, please listen to my questions. What color is the Toyota Prius?
Gray, dark gray.
And the license number?
I don't know. I can look. (750ZMH).
Zebra Mary Henry?
Yes.
All right, we'll have somebody look for you there.
Okay, how long will it be?
I don't know, ma'am. They have to respond to emergency, life-threatening situations first. The first available deputy.
Well, this could be life-threatening. He went to court on Wednesday, and he didn't get his kids back. And this is really, I'm afraid for their lives.
Okay, has he threatened the lives of the children previously?
I have no idea.
All right, we'll have the first available deputy contact you.
Thank you.
All right.
Hello?
Hi, ma'am. Were you calling about the fire in the 8200 block of
Yes,
188th
he
Street,
exploded the house.
Ma'am,
Yes,
do you know
he exploded the house.
okay, do you know the exact address of the house, or are you
Yes,
able?
it's 8119 189th Street, Court East,
Okay.
2 hours.
Okay, stand line. Do you know if anyone's in the house?
Yes, there was a man and
Okay.
2 children. I just dropped off the children, and he wouldn't let me in the door.
Okay, stand line for the fire department. Okay, I'm going to get them on the line. Do not hang up. Hold on. Stay on the phone here with me, ma'am. Hi, fire. This is Rose Bentley. So transferring a lady who has an exact address of the house that is on fire there in the 188th Street Court East neighborhood.
Yes? Okay, I would have gave them that exact address. I dropped it, sorry. Just a minute. I can hear the fire trucks, but they're not here yet. It's 8119. There. What? We have an engine there. And people are saying there's not somebody here, but I was just there, and there is somebody here. There's 2 little boys in the house, and they're 5 and 7, and there's an adult man. He has supervised visitation, and he blew up the house and the kids. The kids and the husband and the father were in the house? Yes, he slammed the door in my face. So I kept knocking. I thought it was a mistake. I kept knocking, and then I called 911. You saw him go back into the house when the flame, right before the flame? He didn't ever leave the house. He just opened the door. The kids were one step ahead of me. They're 5 and 7. They were one step ahead of me, and he slammed the door in my face.
And you think he might have done this intentionally?
Yes.
Okay. County, go ahead with what you need. I'll pass that on to my... Thank you very much, Fire. Ma'am, what is your name, please?
I'm Elizabeth Griffin Hall, and I'm the supervisor.
Okay, hold on. Elizabeth, hold on just a moment, ma'am. Okay, so your last name is Griffin what?
Griffin Hall, Griffin Hall, Hall.
Okay, and your phone number is 360-990-9955 is your personal cell number. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's
okay.
correct.
Where are you at right now?
I'm at 81112 on the same court.
Okay, so you're waiting down the street at 8112 109th Street, 189th Street, Court E.
Yes.
Okay, and are you in your car?
I was in my car. I'm standing outside it right now.
Okay, is that your home? Is that your home address?
No, that's not my home
Okay.
address. I was the supervised visitation coordinator. I picked the children up.
What is this person's name?
His name is Josh Powell. Just a minute, the sheriff's here. Let me tell him the
Go ahead and talk.
in the house.
Go ahead and talk to the officer, ma'am.
Okay, so that's very disturbing, isn't it? I mean, that man, oh my God, I hope he did lose his job afterwards. He just didn't take her seriously at all. And when he said to her, all those questions he was asking, instead of, he was just like dismissing her as some stupid woman or whatever. And he was just like, oh, well, we have to deal with life-threatening situations first. He just didn't take her serious. And I know she didn't sort of explain herself really well, but he should have been able to tell by the panic. She was a social worker. The children have gone into the house and he slammed the door. She probably should have said to him, but there's probably a lot of things she could have said if she would have said maybe, well, she did say his name, but maybe she would have said, oh, well, he's currently under suspicion for murdering their mother. But why was he even allowed? That to me, why was he even allowed? If you're under suspicion for murdering someone, like with Maddie Kingsbury's case, why was Adam even considered for the children to be able to go and see him? Anyway, luckily that's turned out. I'm sure the police have learnt a lesson from this case. These sort of cases, the only good thing that you can say come out of them, if you like, is that lessons are learned. So basically, of course, we want to know what happened. So what happened is he blew up the house and all their bodies, him and the 2 children, who he had attacked with an axe first. He had attacked with an axe before the fire, for the explosion. All their bodies were found. So they're all dead. So that's Susan who's disappeared. Now Joshua has taken his own life and murdered the 2 children. I mean, it's just, anyway, so that's what's happened so far. So came to that, obviously, there's nothing, no more sort of, no more action that can be taken against him because he's taken himself to a different place and he's taken the children along. So poor Charlie and Braden, how could he do that? I honestly cannot understand how anyone could do that, but they do it. And not only men do it, women do it sometimes as well. And it was because he was scared he was going to lose custody of them completely. And he was scared that he was going to get charged with Susan's murder, which maybe eventually would have done. So turns out friends and relatives of Josh, he had contacted them by email minutes before the incident. So while he was waiting for the boys to turn up with the social worker, he had sent emails to friends and family to say goodbye. He'd sent instructions for finding his money and shutting off his utilities. Also showed he'd withdrawn $7,000 from his bank account and had donated his children's toys and books to local charities the day before the incident. So, you know, he knew exactly what he was going to do. And he named his brother Michael as the main beneficiary of his insurance policy. So let's find out. I mean, Michael, a year later, I just got a chill then. The following year, approximately a year, nearly a year to the day of when this terrible thing happened, where Josh took his children's life and his own, his brother Michael took his own life in Minnesota. He jumped off the roof of a parking garage. After Joshua had murdered the children, he was questioned quite a lot by the police. And I think he felt, and especially about his abandoned car, that the cadaver dogs had picked up on the scent, etc. He was being questioned quite a lot, so he obviously felt like the net was closing in on him. So he took himself away from this world. So we've now, Susan's disappeared, Josh has killed himself and the two children. Now Michael, his brother, who we think it was involved in the disappearance of Susan, he's taken his own life as well. And then the only one that's left is lovely, the father, Stephen, who's really the root of it all, isn't he? Because at the end of the day, he brought these two boys up this way. And he'd gone to prison, of course, for these pornography charges, etc., and voyeurism charges. He was released from prison finally on July the 11th in 2017. He served 7 years following his voyeurism and child pornography charges and convictions, and he died the following year of natural causes on July the 23rd, 2018. So he also died without revealing anything about what had happened to Susan. So the tragedy for her parents, I cannot imagine how that is for them, because they've lost their daughter, they've lost their grandchildren. And not only that, the perpetrators of this terrible thing, they can't give any answers because they're all dead as well. So Susan is still a missing person. But obviously, given the fate, what happened, what Joshua did to the boys, it's widely believed, obviously, that she was murdered. They're calling to have her declared dead, the cause being homicide, but as far as I know, that hasn't happened yet. It's very difficult to search these mine shafts because they're so dangerous. So what's thought happened is that Josh put Susan's body in one of the mine shafts and then, put all the dirt down over the top of it and everything. So it's just very, very dangerous. And there was in early 2022, so that's not that long ago, last year, there was a search made. And I don't know who this person is, but Dave Sparks says it's the Diesel Brothers personality, Dave Sparks. So it's obviously maybe someone who does these kinds of things. And they did discover some rib bones and some vertebrae and scraps of clothing, etc. But when they were sent to a laboratory, the DNA test proved that none of them belonged to Susan. Some of them were animal remains, and then there were some pants that were recovered with the bones. They tested positive for male DNA, and they're trying to identify whoever that was. So Now, I did warn you, it wasn't a very nice story. I hope I haven't traumatized you all too much. But I think it's very important. I still think it's important because we have to remember these cases. I'm sure this case was remembered, as I say, with the Maddie Kingsbury case, and the police put the block on Ada, because while she was missing, her ex-partner, who was, you know, is under suspicion for her disappearance, he was trying to get custody. He was going to court. You know, he was so the cheek. Oh God, the cheek of it. How that must have been for Maddie's parents. You know, to know that they could end up coming to a day where the judge would say, "Oh no, their children have got to go to their father, or he's got visitation rights." And this case will be the first thing in their mind. You know, would he do something to the children? Because you can never underestimate what people will do if they feel like they're backed into a corner. So that is the story of Susan Powell. I like to keep her name alive because, you know, it's just such a tragic story. But it's not even a question of thinking, oh, well, down the line somebody might confess or something. Nothing can come out because they're all gone. Susan's gone, Joshua's gone, the two boys are gone, the brother is gone, and the father is gone. So there won't be any answers unless by some miracle. And I honestly, I do think about this case every day. I think about a lot of cases every day. And I'm always praying that for the family, I know it can't change anything that's happened, but Susan's parents, you know, deserve to know what happened to her, don't they? And to be able to bring her home and at least bury her, or, you know, at least have her back with them. But it'll have changed the one good thing that hopefully has come out of this. It's probably changed the way people, and I mean, listening to that 911 call, it's excruciating, isn't it? It's excruciating. I'm sure that led to some sort of change in the way that call handled it. That man was so contemptuous. You just wanted to like slap him, didn't you? You know, and when he said to her, "Oh well, we have to deal with life-threatening emergencies," you know, and all right, he didn't know what, but he was so contemptuous of her. It was awful. Oh, odd bod. Yes, and she was, Sheila, you're right. I mean, if she would have gone in with them, you know, well, what would have happened to her? Because what he did, he attacked the children with an axe, and then there was an explosion. He set fire to the house. So he would have died a horrible death as well. I think the children were already dead. I mean, not that that's any better, attacked by an axe by their father. I mean, good God, those poor boys. But anyway, okay, so that is the story of Susan Powell that I've been trying to been saying that I was going to talk about for such a long time. So now I'm going to lighten things up a bit just to finish off. Any of you that are on here, I mean, this is don't forget to press the like button. Of course, I haven't done that, as I always forget. But I want to show you something. I want you to tell me, is there anybody, I was talking today with my son about, I don't even know how this conversation started. We were talking about like space travel and, you know, how like Virgin and these Elon Musk and that trying to go into outer space, and will we ever live in outer space? And I don't know if any of you remember the program Space 1999, where, you know, everybody was living on these space stations, etc. And you know, we were talking about that, and then we started talking about like centrifugal forces. You know how you get onto crazy things. And I was telling him about this. Now, let me see. Do any of you remember this? I've been on this. Let's see. Present, share screen, window. Do any of you, are any of you as old as me that you remember the rota? The rota, I mean, before the days of health and safety, I remember going on I mean, I was really little. I was only a little girl, because I think they stopped being sort of common maybe in about 1970. So I was just a little girl, but I remember going on it. And I remember if any of you ever went on it, you know, it used to spin round so fast, and the force of gravity or the centrifugal force or whatever would plaster you against the wall, but you would slide down it. I mean, these two people are bloody upside down. I mean, how dangerous is that? And you would gradually sort of slide down, and then there was like a thing in the middle which it said, don't come near this, but you couldn't help it sometimes because you do. We were going on that as that. I was probably about 7 years old, and I was on that. Does anybody? Some of you will be too young, but do any of you, like me, remember that? The Mexican hat. I can't remember what we used to call it. It's called the rota. According to the picture, this picture that I found, they called it the rota. And I'm trying to think where I think it was Blackpool, actually, because we used to go be Blackpool or Southport. It's really dangerous. It's so dangerous. You know, so dangerous. Oh, odd bod. You know, you just, anyway, well. Did you go on it, Chumba? No, there's no belts, Charlie. I think there are still a couple still around, but they will have belts now or something. But then, no, there was nothing. The only thing that kept you up there, it used to spin round so fast that the force, the centrifugal force, would plaster you to the wall. And that was the only thing that would keep you up there. And then as it started to slow down, you would fall down. Gravitational force, yeah. And the Mad Mouse in Blackpool, that's dangerous too. What was the other thing? The Grand National I used to go. I mean, yeah, Blackpool was good. Yeah, gravity held you in, but it was, look how dangerous. They're upside down. I mean, if they fell down, you couldn't do that now. And especially not without a belt. I'm sure there probably are some similar things now, but they would. I think there's one, isn't there, where you're like in a cage with a thing over you. You're not just, but literally there you had nothing to hold you on there. It was just, those were the good old days of health and safety. What health and safety? There just wasn't any. Oh, you had a belt. Yeah, but exactly, because we were just little. I can vaguely remember going on it, being terrified. I was only little, but I remember going on it. And I think it was Blackpool. It would have been Blackpool or Southport, because that's the only places we went. Well, they're calling it the road. It might be the gravity road. It's probably called different things in different places. Charlie, I expect loads of people were injured. That's probably why they did away with them in the end. I think they only 1970 they stopped in the UK, or being common in the UK. So 1970, probably because there was probably loads of injuries and loads of accidents. Now here in Spain, they're not that hot on health and safety. It's funny, it's like, because I do think it's gone a bit mad in the UK, isn't it? It's like so obsessed with health and safety. It's like, it's too much, I think. But you can see the difference here in Spain when there's like anything I don't think they've got any health and safety rules. But yeah, the gravity wheel, yeah, maybe. Well, that's it. You wouldn't, Maltese, you wouldn't let your child on it now, would you? All the things that we were allowed to do, or our parents, it's like they didn't care about us. I mean, they did care about us, obviously, but it was different then, wasn't it? Yeah, no seat belts. Oh no, seat belts. We didn't have seatbelt. I wouldn't wear a seatbelt for ages. I hated wearing a seatbelt. But that was Jimmy Savile who used to do the advert, wasn't it? Clunk, click every trip. That was to do with insurance, wasn't it, as well? Not just about safety. But I think you're right, Vic. I think there is too much control now in the UK. So you've gone from one extreme to another. I mean, that is not acceptable. It's not acceptable. You know, I expect a lot of people were injured with that, but now it's sort of like, oh my God, because everyone's frightened of being sued now as well, isn't it? Like nobody ever got sued then. I think that's why there's not so much health and safety in Spain, because it's not a suing culture. You know, like in America and the UK now, it's like sue for everything. You don't get that, you know. Yeah, the Grand National, Sheila, it was my older brother who unfortunately is not with us anymore. He passed away not last year, the year before. He's quite a lot older than me. He took me on the Grand National. He thought it was hilarious. I think because my other brother was so difficult to take anywhere or to do anything because, you know, he just was. And I was always good everywhere. So my older brother used to take me instead of my brother. So he took me to the football. He's the one that got me into Manchester City. He used to take me to Main Road and put me on his shoulders and watch the football. He took me to Blackpool Pleasure Beach and took me on the Grand National. Again, I don't know how old I was. I wasn't very old. Yeah, the waltzes. Oh, sorry. Your childhood was stolen at 12 by your karate instructor. Oh, sorry, princess. Anyway, ghost trains. I love the ghost train, but I don't like the ones that you have to walk through. We went to one here in Spain at Terra Mítica, and there was this new thing that had opened, and it's not a ride. You know, I don't mind if you get on the carriage and it drives through. I can just about cope with that. But this one, you had to walk through it. We had to come out halfway through. It was too terrifying. Oh. Yeah, you lost your wee brother. Well, this was my older brother, but I know it's, you don't ever think that's going to happen, do you? You know, but of course, it does. The Twister. Oh. Yeah, I never like things that go round and round and make you dizzy. I don't like things like that. I don't mind roller coasters. I quite like roller coasters. But I never, the waltzes are all right, but I never liked, I'm trying to think of an example. I never liked anything. And it got to a point where I've never been upside down. You know, some of the new rides now, the Revolution and all that. Well, I say new, they're not that new now, but they were new for us. I don't like the big wheel because I don't like heights. So I'm a bit of a baby when it comes. I like some, but I like, you know, I have to feel secure on it. I wouldn't like to go upside. I don't like to feel dizzy. I haven't been on the Stampede in Salou. I haven't been to Salou, actually. I don't think I've been to Salou. That's a place I haven't been to. That's right up in the north. The Dodgers, 2 penny drop machines. Oh, hook a duck. I'm glad you said that, Jackie. Got to be careful how you say that. Oh. Hey. Oh. It's been a little while since I've been to a fair. You know, a fairground. I'm trying to think. When my son was young, we used to go very often to play. You know, obviously you just sort of get out of that, don't you, as they get older. Have you been to? I've been to Terra Mítica, Oddbod. Which one was it that you thought was the scariest? Oh, the octopus. Yeah, I quite like the octopus. I can cope with the octopus, but I don't like local fairs and that because I always think they're not very safe. I like established. So Terra Mítica, Desi, it's in Spain. It's a theme park in Spain. You know, a bit like Alton Towers or whatever, but it's like the Spanish version. So what was the scary one? What was the scariest one, Oddbod, that you said it was at Terramitica? Can you remember what it was called? Now, there's some nice... I took my son on the... there's a... In Spanish, a roller coaster is called a Montaña Rusa, a Russian mountain. And there's one at Terramitica that I made my son go on. And do you know what? In the queue, he was terrified. And I was going, no, you'll be all right, you'll be all right. And then when we got on it, I was terrified and he was finally wanting to go on it again. I just headed straight to the nearest bar and had a vodka. It's terrifying. It went up really high. There's some good rides at and if any of you ever go, Terramitica is near Benidorm. So if you ever get a chance to, I don't know if is it still open. I presume it is, but it was good because they have like a children's. So you've got like the big rides, but then every big ride there's a children's section which has got like what's the word? Yeah, all the big rides are replicated for little kids, and they've got the little kids. I haven't been to Portaventura. I'd like to go there. I'd like to go there as well. Yeah. Is it freezing cold now in the UK? Is that what you're saying? It's cold now. Oh. Well, the water shoots. Oh, and there's the, like we call it the log flume, don't we, in Blackpool? But there's one at Terramitica that's like, can't remember what it's called, but it's got like Egyptian. It's Terramitica is different. There's 4 different themes. There's like the Egyptian section, the Greek section, and there's 2 others, but I can't remember what they are. And that, like what we would call the log flume, it's like in the Egyptian section, they've all got like pharaohs' heads on them. But anyway, so it's cold in Scotland. Well, raining in Glasgow, 16, 17 degrees. Oh, well, it is, over 30 here, though. It's later now, so it's gone a little bit cooler, but it's very cold. Sorry, it's very hot. You've put the heating on now. Oh my God, I've got aircon and 3 fans on. Thank you, Mitchie. That's nice. Oh, it's cold and raining in Manchester. Oh, I do like a bit of Manchester rain, a bit of drizzle, but only a bit. Only a bit. Okay, well, I'm sorry that was a very sad story, obviously, of Susan Powell, but I hope you sort of found it interesting and you realise the reason why it's important. It's an important story. There's lessons to be learned from it. And when these people are under suspicion of, it must be difficult, so difficult for the police. Because sometimes they know, like with Adam and Maddie Kingsbury, they knew really that Adam had killed Maddie. But they had no body, they had no evidence, etc. So it must be really difficult to try and strike the balance, not wanting something like that to happen again, etc. Okay. Yeah, go back and watch from the beginning because it is an interesting story. It's a very sad story, though, I'll warn you that now. Okay, thanks so much for being here with me. Don't forget to like on your way out if you didn't like on your way in. And where are we now? So I'll see you on Sunday now. I'm going to do a serial killer Sunday. I may see you in the meantime. You never know. Things come up sometimes, don't they? But if nothing comes up, I will see you on Sunday. Thank you so much. Remember to always live and love very carefully and wisely, very carefully. Poor Susan, unfortunately, she got involved in that family. Oh, my God. That poor woman. Anyway, and remember to always look after yourself, because you are the most important person. To look after other people, you have to look after yourself first. And I will see you very soon. And until then, yeah, you can have a chin. You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you. And I will see you. May your God go with you till I see you again. Night, night, everyone. Night, Jackie. Night, David. Yes, a sad one, but it's a, you know, it's a lesson to be learned, isn't it? Night, night. Yeah, the 911 call will blow your mind.